Flak was an abbreviation for Flugabwehrkanone or anti-aircraft gun. At the beginning of the war, the Flakwaffe or the flak arm of the German Air Force was nearly 1 million men, about 2/3 of the entire Luftwaffe. The field tunic of the Flakttrupps was made of fine quality blue-gray wool. Collar tabs were made of bright red wool, and there was red twisted piping around the edge of the collar. The General der Flakartillerie, or General of the Anti-Aircraft Artillery, was a general of the branch rank of the Luftwaffe. Until the end of the war, this particular general officer rank was on 3-star level, equivalent to a US lieutenant general. As the war progressed, the men in the static home defense flak units were moved to the mobile field flak units. Replacing these able-bodied men were older men, teenaged schoolboys, and women auxiliaries. The most common heavy flak weapon was the famous 88mm gun. This was a multi-purpose weapon that served well as an anti-tank gun, artillery gun, and flak gun. The Flak 88 required 10 soldiers to operate it, but later in the war this would be reduced to 8 men, and it could fire 15 rounds per minute to a maximum altitude of 35,000 feet. For most of the war, the heavy flak weapons fired time-fused, high-explosive shells because the German engineers were unable to develop a workable proximity-fused shell. A flak battery was laid out in 2 or 3 groups of 6 guns. Later in the war, these were increased to 8 guns. With the entry of the United States into the daylight bombing grades and the increased pressure of night bombing grades, the Germans would group 2 or 3 flak batteries together with a single command post, directing them to engage only one specific target. The larger unit was the battalion or the Flakabteilung, which composed of 3 to 5 batteries. The battalions were later organized into regiments and flak corps, although this hierarchy was not very strict or stable throughout the war. A total of 6 flak corps were organized by Germany during the war. The flak corps, while mainly intended to support ground units with concentrated anti-aircraft fire, in many cases provided much-needed anti-tank support for the German army. The use of flak corps as ground warfare assets was complicated because they were officially part of the Air Force chain of command, even when supporting ground forces. Given the expense of producing anti-aircraft guns in relation to the cost of anti-tank guns of the same capabilities, it is questionable if their use as anti-tank weapons was economical. In the larger cities like Berlin, Hamburg, and Vienna, large concrete flak towers were constructed. These flak towers doubled as air raid shelters for the civilian population. Searchlights were deployed with 3 batteries with 9 lights. The searchlight zones were placed in the zone of preparation. From 1942, the searchlight battery was positioned close to a heavy flak battery with a 200 cm master searchlight which had a blue-tinged color. This master light would find the target, and three 150 cm satellite lights came onto the aircraft to cone it. Usually, the master light was in the center, and the three satellites were positioned 1.5 miles away in the three opposite directions. The Germans saw the searchlights as an effective means of defense because the glare of the searchlights blinded the bomber crew and prevented any sort of accurate bombing run. The flag batteries and searchlight batteries were positioned in an all-round defense because the aircraft could come from any direction. The target would be tracked with two radar units, one for altitude and one for speed. This information was fed into the predictors which sighted the guns. The predictor requires continuous input for elevation and range in order to calculate the position of the target at the time of the projectile arrival. The Army anti-aircraft badge, or the Heeresflagabzeichen, was the most important German military decoration awarded to German Army personnel for service in an anti-aircraft battery. The badge was made in only one grade. It had the national eagle at the top and an oak leaf wreath around the outside rim. In the middle was an 88mm flak gun with the barrel facing upwards to the viewer's right. Criteria for the award came from a recommendation by commanders of the rank of General der Flakartillerie or above. It was awarded after the accumulation of 16 points, or could also be awarded outside of the point system for an act of merit or bravery in the performance of anti-aircraft duties. If the candidate's battery brought down an enemy aircraft, then the crew members were awarded 4 points. If two batteries were involved, then each battery received 2 points. Both officers and crews were eligible for the badge. The commanding officer for an anti-aircraft unit was eligible for the badge once half of his men also qualified for the badge. Unlike the similar anti-aircraft battle badge of the Air Force or the Flakkampfabzeichen der Luftwaffe, points were only awarded for the downing of aircraft and not ground targets. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and to make sure you don't miss my future work, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel and press the bell notification button. Thank you, and see you in the next video.